Hi everyone, this is Shauna Tarosa, RAYAC's Executive Officer, and this is my desk. In this monthly video blog, I go over questions that are coming across my desk every single day so we can have much smoother real estate transactions here in York and Adams counties. So the topic that I have to talk about today is on real estate scams. Unfortunately, real estate scams have been happening not only in our community, but across the United States for decades and decades. And sometimes it ebbs and flows, but a lot of them just come back up historically, like every 10 years, and it becomes an issue again that is happening in our community. So the first scam that I wanted to make you aware of that we know is happening in York and Adams counties has to deal with individuals who are posing as the owner of record of a property. So they're posing as a seller, they're going in under listing agreements with other brokerage companies, and they're being very deceiving. So they're posing as the owner of record. They've created, in some cases, fraudulent driver's licenses, notarization documents indicating that you would believe that they are the actual owner of the property and you were looking to sell it. Now, in most of these cases, they are specifically targeting vacant land and land that has been owned for quite a few years. So what are some tips and tricks on how you can make sure you don't fall for one of these scams, no matter how creative and conniving they can be? So one of the things that I would be leery of is the seller never willing to meet with you in person, or never willing to even meet with you over any type of a Zoom communication? So of course, we have all these great electronic means today, but if they are coming up with a lot of excuses over why they can't meet with you in person or do some sort of a Zoom platform to do any type of verification that you are actually speaking with the person you think you're speaking with, that might raise a red flag to me and would cause me to do some further research and investigation to make sure the person you think you're dealing with is actually the owner of the property. Unfortunately, I've heard this happen now at least 4 to 5 different times from different listing brokerages who have been identified that they were working with someone they thought was the owner of the record of the property, and they turned out not to be. So please be very cognizant of that, particularly if you are looking to list a vacant parcel of land for sale. You want to make sure you're working with the actual owner of record of the property. The second one has to deal with international buyers. So there are lots of legitimate international buyers who are looking to purchase property in our community. But the one thing to be leery of is I've been contacted about this one particular scheme that has been present, particularly in the York County community, where an individual is posing as an international buyer. And again, one of the clear distinctions is they never have time to meet with you in person because they're an international buyer. They can't come into the country, or they for whatever reason, they're never able to do any type of Zoom technology in order to FaceTime with that individual to know who you're speaking with. So they're doing everything in electronic means, and that's all of their communications. What has been happening is they say they're very interested in the property, they make an offer on the property, and then they even will ask you to say, do you have an attorney that you're working with, so that we can, do all the transactions through the attorney and make sure everything is on the up and up. So what has happened is that they will put down a pretty large deposit and or send in a check for the entire amount of the actual purchase price of the property. Typically, they're sending in those checks from a foreign bank. Many times it's coming from a Canadian bank. Now the issue is that with those international banks, it takes additional time for that to clear through the banking system here in the United States. So it isn't your typical, domestic bank exchange. It takes a longer amount of time for it to clear through the international banking system. So what has happened in the past, and thankfully we've caught these that have happened here in York County, that they've identified that they were fraudulent before anything further happened. But what the end game is that they put down this very large deposit and or the purchase price of the property, and then in the the scheme is that they will either ask for the money back, they want a refund for the deposit that they paid or for the purchase price. They decide to get cold feet, they're no longer going to purchase the property. Or in some cases, let's say they were going to put down $50,000 in a deposit, but they sent you $60,000 and then they say, I need $10,000 back. You really need to refund me that $10,000 back. What has happened in other parts of the country, so again, not here in York and Adams County, but other parts of the country, is they thought that the check had cleared, but there can be a delay with that international banking system. They wire transfer the refund back. So in the one case, the $10,000 back to the buyer of the property who put $10,000 more down on the deposit. After they wire transfer the funds back, guess what? Check didn't clear for the $50,000, and now the listing brokerage company was out $10,000 because they wired the $10,000 refund back to what they thought was a legitimate buyer. So my best advice here is you always trust but verify. If something seems off, make sure you're taking some additional steps to ensure that you're working with a legitimate buyer. If you are getting any type of those checks that are from an international banking institution, you want to work very closely with your who's holding the escrow funds or those type of thing, that your local banking institution or whomever you're using, to make sure that that check clears. And by no circumstances should you be refunding any money back to that buyer until you're absolutely certain that the check that you received has cleared through the banking process. And in the cases where this has come up in York County, the checks did not clear, and thankfully the only thing lost was a $15 processing fee that was charged by the bank for depositing a check that didn't clear. So all is well and good, but we just want to make sure that you're aware of some of those scams that are happening in our community so that you can make sure you're being diligent and trusting but verifying in all of your transactions. So that's the information that I have to you today. If there's any other topic you would ever like me to cover here in this video series, please feel free to reach out to me because my doors and ears are always open to you. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.